So I put you in the wrong spot. Flip flop.
Okay.
Again, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Probably did flip flop that. There you go. Okay. I keep forgetting. Lisa's here. You doing that, huh?
We noticed.
And I'm like, well,
It's
I didn't notice until he
fine.
sat down, and I'm like, oh, and I didn't actually see it until he sat down. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. That's correct.
Okay. I have it engraved. Did you switch the
We did.
envelopes?
We did.
Sorry, Queen.
That's okay.
I guess I just so used to seeing him on that side.
Well, that was last year.
Yeah, I know,
I was
but I'm
thinking,
just used to it.
They all change.
Yeah, we found this agenda.
Well, I won't forget next time.
A list of people I sent.
It's now it's engraved.
Yeah.
He's on our side.
Reach out to me because they were super excited about being a part of it.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We have not yet, but we are in the process, yeah, so we're gonna be doing that soon, so, yeah.
I just want to let
So
them
you
know.
may
Yeah,
have
just let
while
them know
here,
that-
while here, Queen,
You're
you're
still, I have a meeting with
Because
them.
you're sitting on this.
I just wanna have a plan as to what we're gonna ask them to do before we actually reach out to them.
Yeah. Got it. All right,
I don't-
thank you.
I don't wanna reach out to them and say, so, that's good, they're excited.
Yeah, I think people are good. I think it might be a. Yeah.
Does this sometimes,
Looks like it's working.
yeah. And it's on, right?
Mm.
The strip is on, there's one that's. Oh, I don't know. I don't know if this is, oh yeah, it's green.
But if yours are.
Yeah.
That one, yeah. Okay, yeah, cause mine's working, mine's plugged in, Susie, and it's working.
No, it's weird.
I did.
Sometimes I'll get it home and it won't come up.
And then I got voluntold that I was gonna do
And I don't have the strip.
our annual
power
state to the city council. Cause nobody else.
Mine's working, so.
Who did that? Who made the presentation last year? It was great. No, I just did the present, they did the slides.
So you get to do it again.
Yeah.
That's okay.
That was the chair's job to do.
Right.
I'm not the chair.
Mine does that, which is why I have this external.
Chair's privilege. Okay.
Well,
Your keyboard.
Yeah. I use my keyboard. Oh, you got three, you made some moves.
Let's see.
I'm happy with it. Thanks.
Are yours okay?
Yeah, I'm all logged on, so I'm good.
We announce this announcing.
Okay. Those I have some.
right.
Yep.
Hi, Derek.
Hello.
I don't know if I-
How you doing?
Doing well, yeah. Happy Pi Day.
Yeah.
Happy what?
Pi
Day?
Happy Pi Day.
Yeah, it's
Friday, yeah.
That's
3.14.
3:14.
Yeah.
We used to
It's
have
something
friends that would freaking
our
call
nerdy,
you cards and
you know,
send you stuff.
coworkers can celebrate, all the engineers.
Guess someone who was 7'3" sat in there earlier.
Yeah, I kind of like to sit a little taller because.
It's on the right hand side, the
Didn't do
very
it.
far one on the right, and you pull it up.
What up?
Pull one on the right, and you pull it up.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
People like different heights, some people like to sit on the floor. some people
Yeah.
sit
Some
up.
people like Edith Ann, they don't
Yeah.
like their feet to touch.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, yours is tall, so I guess you just kind of keep your feet tucked back on
That's
the,
okay, you know,
yeah.
I need to keep up with the height. And they do that in Jeopardy too.
Oh, did
Yeah,
they
have
have
people
some
stand up
cushions and
on the
stuff?
boxes.
Oh, yeah.
They're all the same height.
Hmm. Yeah, don't want to have anybody with a different
More
advantage.
imposing than others.
Well, it isn't so much that as it's shorter people, which tend to be women, would be at a disadvantage.
Right, they need
Yeah.
a disadvantage, Yeah.
By the way, how did the gold work for the leprechauns? Did it work? Did it work? Did they catch?
We
the-
don't have another.
See, the teachers were very
What?
creative.
Yeah.
And they
there's
went
one
through and just damaged
Yeah,
each of the
oh,
crafts
sorry.
and said, oh, those leprechauns, they're really tricky, huh?
Really rascals,
Yeah.
aren't they?
So they left them in the classroom. They have like
Credentials.
dirt stuff that they threw around in the classroom and I think, what? It's all broken.
Leprechauns.
My goodness, those
And
leprechauns
all
are
the candy was
cagey.
gone too.
They're cagey.
I was telling Quee that, he passed out those little
Mhm.
envelopes, and so I gave them to Jack and Emmett, and they decided to eat one, and the other one was going to be to trap leprechauns.
There you go. Excellent. That was a good choice. Try to
Yeah.
trap your leprechauns.
Okay, let's do this one. Any update in the world?
Not quite sure.
Yesterday.
From the new director of public works.
Oh.
What was superintendent that you
See, that was not working.
Yeah, I mean,
But hopefully they'll have to.
It's working now, so it's been, okay,
Of course it is.
but maybe I should plug this in as a backup in case.
all it took was you to run to the other room.
That's exactly what it took. Let's need to run to the other room. Oh,
Is Chris back?
Yeah, I was thinking
He
maybe
is.
just have this up, just as a backup.
Oh, my appointments street. Getting be a bit busy.
In that time of year.
Mhm.
Not the name, just the portion.
Oh, weird.
I know my keys.
I have to check, Michelle, my schedule for, the vacation I've got planned in July. I know I'm gonna miss the Blues and Brews.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Unfortunately.
Bummer.
I know.
Yeah, I actually have vacation that week too. I'm gonna try to swing back here on Saturday morning, but yeah.
Yeah, so I was kind of bummed out.
That's a
couldn't
bummer.
get to that, yeah.
Where are you going?
We're just gonna go up to Shasta,
Okay.
yeah, to our cabin there. Just spend a couple of weeks,
Nice.
so. But I'm pretty sure that there's gonna be a
A board
board meeting at
Yeah,
some
just let me know so I can put it on my schedule, cause then I try to
accommodate.
accommodate,
the
not having,
agendas.
not having major things that you might be interested in on that agenda.
Yeah, let me see.
So don't get to have, put you on the stage. to
I know.
those Bands.
I know, unfortunately, I really enjoyed that last year. I was like, this kind of fun. And it was a headliner too, I
Yeah.
remember. I
Can
was
we,
like, okay. I
are we
guess.
gonna reschedule the second May meeting?
We are. Since 4 of you are attending the CRPD conference.
And I did change my, I went in and did it. I'm coming back Friday and.
Okay, that's Saturday.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So she could.
So I think I'll miss the meeting after the Blues and Brews, it's the 25th. So. EW 7/20.
Got it.
And then, yeah, we reschedule the
yeah.
one for May,
Where-
do the conference attendance.
Yeah, we'll find another date for that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit.
Oh, I may bring it up, but the Chilpancingo, is that like gonna be?
It'll be,
just a-
yeah, I think I put it, yeah, I did.
It is that report as well,
Yeah.
okay. Cool. Definitely want to try and hit that up, it's on Tuesday, right?
Yeah. Yes, we're just gonna, we will do that, so that way we can. Anybody who wants to come can, come listen. I prefer you not say anything, but.
Yeah. Are you chomping at the bit to get started?
No, I'm just waiting for a minute. about a
7
minute and a
o'clock
half,
to strike.
1 minute to go.
Yeah.
See it, Bob.
I just texted him to see if he's on his way.
He's on his way.
I don't, just texted him.
Well, he comes in.
Right at the last minute.
Yeah, he's got like
Right.
coaching duties and things like that.
So kind of coming straight from something else.
Yeah, usually, got coaching duties these days.
Everything's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, things have been exceptionally busy at work for me too, just recently. We're trying to go out for a grant for the EPA and got some proposals. We've had been selected about what proposals we want to go after, because it's just too much work to be done.
Yeah, yeah. Right. Nope.
You catch it?
No.
Warming up, yeah.
Yeah. it is.
They're all hatching out.
No, no.
Is Lila coming out?
I don't know, she's on the agenda, so.
Yeah, so you should be able to do that, and then when it starts, you should be able to click that. And then click
They can't, Jim gives you the motion. You have the motion to watch.
Well, no, that's if you add the motion, but that's the time, that's the stamp.
Okay.
For each of those, so then that pledge allegiance, you click that one,
Yeah.
so. I heard from Mr. Glover, I haven't heard from Mr. Glover, so.
All right,
you can unput
and
that.
I was not waiting, so
But we can go ahead and.
we'll go ahead and start. All right.
I haven't heard from Lila either, so.
Whoa, I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Board of Directors for the Pleasant Hill Recreation and Park District for Thursday, March 14th. It's 7 p.m. As far as the roll call, we are missing, let's see, Director Glover, so we'll see if he makes it. But everybody else, all the other directors are in attendance. We'll go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Derek.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have to get used to looking out and it's lighter,
I know.
Yeah.
just dark, so that'll be nice. All right, let's see. We're now to public comment. This item provides an opportunity for members of the public to comment on any item within the jurisdiction of the board that is not on the agenda. Do we have any public comment items?
We have no speaker cards?
No emails.
Okay. Then we'll close public comment and move on to item 4, reports and presentations. 4.1, our ex officio representative is not in attendance, so we'll move to item 4.2, report from the general manager.
Great, thank you, Chair Vincent, members of the board. I have included a written report in your packet. I wanted to highlight just a couple of things. One, the Chilpancingo Park update. We will have a posted meeting. That'll be a posted special board meeting if board members would like to attend next Tuesday, the 19th. I would appreciate that you go to listen, since you will get your opportunity to provide feedback. But it would be nice for you to hear from, the constituents who attend. There will be a couple of options for the community to look at. So that will be great. Just a reminder, your Form 700 filing is due on April 1st, so please make sure you get that turned in. You need to do that through the county net file system. So if you have problems accessing that, please talk to Susie. She can help you with that process. Everything else seems to be going really well. The senior center was awarded $19,000 from the county. The funny thing is that they just sent us a contract and didn't tell us they actually awarded us the grant. And so we applied for it, $19,000 to replace the 2 warmers at the senior center, which is going to save our CIP budget, which is very nice. But, you know, I chuckled because I got a email from Chair Vincent going, what is this? I'm like, I don't know. And then I asked Holly, she's like, apparently we got the grant and we didn't know. So, you know, the county kind of does things a little weird sometimes. They approved it.
Get a letter next month.
Yeah, and they sent it to us, and so that's great. But I want to commend staff on applying for that grant and getting that, so that was excellent. But with that, I'll take any questions.
Director Banana.
Well, first of all, congratulations on your appointment as vice chair of the Capri. That's a great thing for all of us, but also for you as well. So I know you'll do a great job. With respect to Chilpancingo Park, should we be surprised that conceptual plans are being developed and not run by the
No.
board or land of facilities before?
No,
It goes
this is
to
the,
public?
this is the, so this is the process, this is the community process where we get, you know, conceptual designs of just kind of placement of things, and then we get feedback from the public, and then the consultant will take that feedback and then come back to the full board or the land facilities committee, whichever way we decide to go, and then get feedback at that point in time, so.
In part, I guess my concern was in attending the last one, there were wild and crazy ideas that we were not at all within
Right.
anything that we could
Okay.
budget for. And so I'm wondering, there's been no conversation
No, but
from the
staff-
board,
Yeah,
the
right.
staff
I'm
staff is kind of funneling
staff
it.
funnels that
Thank
information,
you.
so,
Okay.
so staff funnels some of that information, so.
So,
I mean, not everything that the community would like is going to be included, but
Thank you.
staff definitely works with the consultant on funneling some of those things, so.
And last, of course, I need to talk about the summer registration update. For anyone listening, I wanted to apologize as a board member on behalf of the district for the snarl that happened for the expo. But I guess the thing that I would like more information on in the informal report of some kind is whether Civic Rec is taking any responsibility for the financial hit on the hours that our employee staff had to work to untangle all of this. Secondly, is there any discussion about finding another vendor? And if not, why? The third thing I just wanted to comment on was to say how much I appreciate staff's shouldering all of this confusion and problem that we had. They did an absolutely incredible job, second year in a row, but tribute to them, but a real demerit on the part of our program. And I would love to see a fuller report about all of this. The last thing is, I know you and I have spoken about this, that there should be a better way of getting people registered that's a fair way. I'd be interested in some kind of report about what some of those ideas might be. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Director Tran, Vice Chair Tran.
Thank you for bringing that up. I was going to bring up the same thing as board too, but I also like your ideas or suggestions on agendizing some of the potential aspects of it, either a report out on what happened, what kind of software alternatives might be out there, and then what are ways to better democratize. I know it's very difficult because it's a limited resource, and so all of the rec, they do the same thing, right? It just sits around their computer. So but trying to figure out ways to better democratize the registration process, I think it's a fair thing to discuss in a future agenda item.
Yeah.
I was very disappointed that this happened again. We sort of asked, "Are you sure we're ready for it?" And then this sort of just crashed and burned. And so it was disappointing.
Okay. I don't have any other comments about the GM report. I know that the general manager and the staff have worked hard on and are thinking about what to do in the future. So I think a report or further information that we can get down the road would be helpful as we go forward. And I think there probably are some creative ways to do things. It was, and the public, I have to give thanks to the public for being so patient. You know, you were down there, I was down there, Derek, you were in line. They were, I didn't see any major meltdowns. I saw, you know, some unhappy faces, but people were, you know, we had a couple of questions coming to us directly, and people were, it was unfortunate. They didn't like it, but they weren't, at that point at least, they weren't angry, they weren't yelling and screaming and that kind of thing. So, and that goes to what staff was doing to try and mitigate the situation and get things going the best way they could for that situation. So I also thank them for that. Okay, we will close item. Say no, I guess, do we have any public comment? No, no public comment, close public comment on item 4, reports and presentations, and we'll go on to item 5, which is a consent calendar. We have 2 items, 5.1, 5.2. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll move the consent calendar.
Okay. The consent calendar has been moved by Director Bernardo. Do I have a second? Vice Chair Tran has seconded the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Nice.
Passed unanimously. All right, thank you. I guess I didn't get the little pop up, but that's okay.
But yeah, we're doing it a different way.
Oh,
She's
okay.
waiting, kind of.
Oh, okay.
So it
Okay.
doesn't, but yeah.
For the item we need to read.
No, it's
If it's
good.
not there, we miss it.
She's waiting. We're trying to do it a
No, that's
different way
okay.
to get it
Not a problem.
timed right, so.
All right, well, we will move on to our action item, which is 6.1, review of updated employee personnel policy handbook. And let's see here. Michelle.
Great, thank you, Chair Vincent. And while this is under the action items, we're actually not taking action on this item this evening. This is the first review of the updated employee handbook. As noted in the staff report, we have a procedure in our board policies on how to update policies that the board is responsible for. And so we need at least 2 readings. So we need to be able to discuss it and have questions and make any changes, and then it would come back and we would need a 4/5 vote to adopt any new policies. So I just wanted to clarify that. So the update of the employee handbook has been a long and circuitous and a long, difficult route to get to where we are. We have stopped and started this project. We started and stopped it before COVID, and then we picked it up again. But I want to first thank the Personnel Committee, last year's Personnel Committee that was led by Vice Chair Tran, and then picked up this year by Director Glover. And so they did the yeoman's work of kind of looking through and making recommendations to the updated employee handbook. As I noted in the report, the employee handbook was last officially updated in 2009. And so, there were policies that were changed because of law, but actual adopted by the board was in January 2009. And so we decided that there was way too many changes to redline the last version and put in the new version. You would not have been able to make sense of anything. So basically just consider the entire old version redlined, and this is the new version. And so we started with a template from Lieber Cassidy Whitmore, which is a government employment firm. And then from that, we adjusted it to reflect our personnel policies that are unique to the district. And then from there, we went to the Personnel Committee. Personnel Committee went through policy by policy or section by section actually, They made recommendations. There are a number of recommendations we'll talk about tonight. And then after that process, we took the entire document and requested that our current employment attorney, Deanna Mauser, review the entire document to make sure that we hadn't changed anything that would affect, that would not be incongruent with state law or anything that we missed. And so that is where we are. There are a number of things that I think I would like to highlight. I included the major sections of things that changed. Our goal was to try to keep the policies and benefits and things as equal as we could. And then just change things that needed to change per state law, or things that had changed since our last update. So just to kind of give you an understanding of that. So a number of changes were made after our attorney review, and I'll kind of talk about that as I go through. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was, so I'm not going to go through all of them. I want to talk about the big picture policy issues that I think the board needs to talk about and be comfortable with. The first is the multilingual pay, which is on section 605. That is a direct implementation from our strategic plan, where we identified that we would like to move for a differential for multilingual pay for those that test and qualify for that. So that is included. We had to change our vacation and sick leave for a classification of employee, which is considered our B employees. So we have three major classifications of employees. We have the A employees, which are the full-time. So those are full-time employees who work 40 hours a week. Our category B are year-round part-time employees that work up to 30 hours a week, or 1560 hours annually. And then our category C employees are seasonal temporary employees that work no more than 20 hours on average throughout the year, right? So they could work 40 hours in a 3-month period, but if you look at their entire year, they only work 20 hours. So those are our three major classifications. So our A employees, there's no recommended changes to any of the vacation or sick. Our B employees, we needed to adjust their leave. Previously, they got what was considered personal time off. They did not get sick leave, and they did not get or vacation. They got personal time off, which meant they could use it for anything. And the rate at which they were accruing in the previous policy was 1 hour for every 10 hours worked. And so that was the so if they worked 30 hours in a week, they got 3 hours. So that was the way that. So since 2009, there's been a lot, and specifically in the last few years, there's been a lot of update to sick leave laws with part-time employees at the state level. So previously, the state required us to provide 24 hours or 3 days for part-time employees for sick leave, and that was considered what is considered protected sick leave. And so we did that for our C employees, but our B employees were earning enough to cover that 24 hours, right? So they were earning enough based on their hours to be covered. Well, this past year, the state has increased the requirement for the sick leave for temporary part-time employees to 5 days or 40 hours. So we needed to make sure that our B employees were getting time to get them to that level within a certain amount of time. So it wasn't enough that they earned it over the course of a year. They needed to get it within the first 3 months. And so for our C employees, we've always just front loaded that. So we've told them that, you know, when they're hired or when the season starts, we give them their 3 days and then they have them to use. But the B employees were earning it. So we took the opportunity at recommendation of council to not offer paid time off anymore, but to transfer to vacation and sick leave. For a couple of reasons. One, because our rate that they were accruing was not enough to satisfy the new sick leave law. Two, paid time off is 100% compensable. So when they leave, if they leave with time on the books, we need to pay them. Sick leave is not compensable by state law. So since we needed to increase the amount in which they were accruing, we decided at the advice of council to break the paid time off into vacation and sick leave. So we would meet state law requirements as well as it's easier to identify to employees that we're following state law if they get sick leave. It's much harder if they hear, well, you're supposed to give me sick leave. Well, that's what PTO is. And they don't really equate that. So, at advice of council, we moved to the vacation and sick leave. And so basically what we're doing is basically kind of trying to keep that even as far as the accruals. And so our category B employees will now receive 4 vacation hours or half a day each pay period, and then they will also in vacation, and then they will also accrue sick leave on a per policy basis, or per pay period basis. So that is the vacation leave thing. So do you want me to go through all of this, or do you want to ask questions as we go? Because there's a lot of information. So
Thank you.
maybe
I think
yeah.
for each area,
Okay.
and then we can ask questions on each one.
Okay.
So you went through.
Well,
let's see.
I talked about multilingual pay,
Multilingual
and then
pay. Does anybody have any questions on the compensation and payroll practices, the first two that we didn't talk about?
Yeah, multilingual pay.
Okay,
I thought it was written in a way that was tight enough to make sure that just because someone speaks more than one language, they don't get a bump, but rather they have to use that additional language. I thought it was written tightly enough. As the implementer of that, do you agree?
I agree.
Okay, thank you.
and that is actually section 604.
Oh, did I get that wrong?
Yeah, I just, only because I just pulled it up. I didn't catch it earlier.
I checked out.
Anything else on the multilingual or that was, yeah, I heard
Well,
some.
I guess I have a follow-up on
Sure.
that one. Is it discretion in you, Michelle, to determine, let's say someone is at the senior center and a Hispanic speaking person is there, doesn't speak English, and so someone can speak that. And so for 1 hour out of a 40-hour work week, they use their skills. Does that give them the pay differential for that 1 hour or forever, or
If they test,
how does that work?
so they would have to test. They would have to take the test and make sure that they do speak it fluently enough to be paid that. And it isn't based on the number of hours that they would use it, because they would then be a resource to the entire district, not just for the senior center. So let's say someone was at the senior center and we had someone here who didn't speak Spanish, or who was at the counter and we needed a Spanish translation, we would then have that resource, and so they would get the multilingual pay.
So if there are 4 people with those that pass the test, do they all 4 get?
No, it would depend on need of the district. So, it's written in that, we'd have to identify the need, if we already have, enough people, who are in the multilingual, like whether tier 1 or tier 2, then they would have to wait until an opening, until there was a need. So,
Okay. And if just occasionally there is someone who speaks Tagalog, just occasionally, is that enough that someone who has tested for Tagalog?
no, I think we'd need a persistent need. It would
Okay,
need to
thank
be a
you.
persistent need.
Okay,
So
and that would be
up to
a
me.
subjective
Yeah.
decision on your part.
Correct. Mhm.
Okay,
The language is the general manager shall have the final determination as to who is certified and at what level, including consideration as to the frequency of use
Yeah.
and the applicability to the district. So it's right there. And I thought that was well written, and I like the way it was structured, as the new policy.
So it would be possible then for someone to be given the pay differential and then not be given the pay differential.
I'm sorry?
It would be possible for someone to be given the pay differential and then not be given the pay
Correct.
differential.
Mhm. Yes,
If the need was no
if the
longer
need was no longer there.
dem-
Yes,
demonstrable.
correct.
Okay, got it, thank you.
Okay. We move on to the next, everybody, okay, all right, Michelle, what one were you gonna?
I was talking about vacation leave.
Okay,
So I was talking about 801.1. So the change in vacation leave, it actually kind of is tied to sick leave as well, but we'll just talk about, which is the 803. But the change in sick leave for category B employees, which are year-round, part-time employees. So. One of the benefits of this is that we're reducing the exposure to the district on unused PTO that needs to be paid out as people leave.
That's
Mhm.
good.
And so by converting, by then having sick leave, which is not compensable upon leaving, so.
And this is only for category, I'm sorry,
Just
this is only for category B, class B?
Yes,
Okay, and those that have accrued vacation will not lose it,
correct,
so that's frozen.
Mhm.
But we have a new policy going forward.
correct. So their PTO will actually be, because it's been compensable, that whatever PTO they have in books will be converted to vacation, and then they'll be subject to whatever caps we have.
And we can do that after the fact.
Correct. As long as I didn't split it up and do part uncompensable, so I'm moving it all to vacation, which is compensable, since PTO was compensable.
Would there have been anybody that would be approaching the cap that might be affected
Not,
or over?
no, I haven't looked, but most of our category B employees use their PTO to make up hours if they don't get enough, or if they're off, or if they're sick, so we don't have a lot of category B employees carrying large balances, I don't believe.
any other comments on that? Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, the next one is 801.2.1, the vacation buyback. So in our old handbook, the district had an option for the general manager to provide a sick leave buyback at a rate that was less than full of the sick time on an annual basis. It was the general manager has full discretion. It depends on budget. And so one time a year, we would allow people to cash in up to a week, basically up to what was considered a week of sick time. That never made any sense to me, since sick leave, again, is not compensable. It was compensable in our old handbook, but moving forward, it is not gonna be compensable. So I've changed that to a vacation buyback at the full rate. So I wanted to keep the benefit for the employees if we had the budget for it, as well as reduce our liability for carrying higher vacation balances. So it would be for the full amount up to a week, which is what was in the previous handbook.
Any questions, Director Bernard?
Yeah, this is for all categories of employees?
Well, it is for those that have vacation, so it's for
Not for C,
not for C, no.
okay.
And it's only been for A in the past, right?
Sick, yeah.
No, because it was sick,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was sick and only over a certain level, you had to have like 300 days.
Yeah, I remember we capped it at one point because we were being eaten out of house and home by a long time and anywhere.
Well, that's why we capped the vacation, so yeah.
And so by converting it to vacation, it's still subject to the cap.
Yes,
Okay, do we have anybody who's sitting at the max?
I have one employee I can think of. Who's sitting in this room.
We have a nice cabin in the woods, why didn't I go there?
I'm like, he's taking some time off coming up, so. Yeah, pretty much one, so.
Okay, all right. It's not like we have a half
No.
dozen, we have a,
No.
well, not, yeah, and I guess would be an unfunded liability,
Right,
wouldn't it?
it's an unfunded liability, which is one of the reasons why
Sitting there. Oh my
I
God.
wanted to convert this to vacation buyback,
Yes,
to
thank
reduce that
Thank
liability.
you. Well, I just wanted to have the conversation to put a little perspective on it from the history, because we have had people retire with buckets and buckets of time,
Mhm.
which not only affected and we did have to buy them out ultimately, but also affected, I believe, their ultimate retirement compensation. So how does this affect retirement compensation?
Employees have always been able to use their unused sick leave if they retire from the district. PERS has a formula that allows that. So that's always been an option, and now that's the only option. So if they don't retire from the district, then it doesn't affect any of their calculations for retirement, so.
Thank you.
Vacation buyback is not.
I'm sorry, Chris?
Vacation buyback is not PERS. It's not counting PERS calculation.
Just
For temporary
just-
employees.
Just sick leave.
Well, I mean, yeah, so it's not
PERS.
PERSable in that we don't pay PERS on the amount that we pay them,
Yeah,
so.
but as I recall, the last 3 years of some former employees' employment, they boosted their compensation
Mhm.
by taking this. And that-
Yeah, that is not, since it's not PERSable, it's not counted.
It's not available anymore.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah, that got changed in the PEPR law.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Sandy.
What next, what is?
Holidays, so
So
so holidays are 802.5 on page 42. So we've had a request of the employees, specifically the DEIB committee, to consider adding Juneteenth as an official district holiday. Our employment attorney said that she preferred that we did not do floating holidays. There's some uneasiness in the law as to whether or not it is permissible for us to require people to use them and not roll them over. So her recommendation was to remove the 2 floating holidays and replace them with actual holidays. So that is what I'm recommending. So Juneteenth would be a new holiday. And then adding Lincoln's birthday and New Year's Eve. So we would get, instead of President's Day, we get Lincoln's birthday and Washington's birthday and New Year's Eve off. So basically, just adding one holiday for employees, taking away the floating holidays, making them static holidays. I used the holiday calendar from the city to be similar. It's frequently difficult for us because at least I have one entire class of employees who share a building with the city. So when they have Juneteenth off and Lincoln's birthday and New Year's Eve, there's some grumbling that the city gets it off and we don't. Obviously that isn't ultimately the reason why I've made the recommendation, but basically this is kind of basically adding one holiday, but keeping the rest the same for employees. And holidays are only paid to A employees.
And could double check whether that's 802.1 or.
It is 802.
I don't know one.
Anybody have any questions on that? Direction on it?
Well, I guess I'm unsettled by the idea of adding a benefit to our A employees without enough discussion about what the financial impact is and the service impact to the public is. Redoing the handbook and modernizing it is one thing, but this is inserting a benefit. And I think that just warrants a different kind of a discussion than simply bringing it up in the course of a conversation about a handbook.
It did go to the personnel committee and the personnel committee did, any additions were brought to the personnel committee and the personnel committee did recommend the addition of the Juneteenth holiday,
Yeah,
so.
that's not what I'm, well, and
No,
I have no
yeah,
problem with
right.
Juneteenth and
Right.
substituting floating holidays.
Right.
It's the addition of a holiday. It's an addition of a benefit without enough really fiscal discussion about it and using the handbook update as the way to add this kind of benefit. I can understand the medical issues with some classifications. But this one leapt out at me that we need a different forum to discuss this. Perhaps as we get closer to discussing compensation for the future year. It's a benefit.
Director Wilson.
Yeah, I kind of share your sentiment there. As I had looked at this as well, I was kind of concerned about adding an additional holiday. But I also wanted to just mention that, whereas we had floating holidays previously that give the employee the opportunity to choose which holidays they celebrate, now we're, suggesting that we define those 3 for them. So I see your point is it's addition of additional holiday time. But it reduces maybe some of the flexibility that the employee would have had to be able to choose which holidays they would have otherwise selected. What if they want to do Cesar Chavez, or if they wanted to do Veterans Day, or I'm not entirely sure which, holidays are observed, but I kind of see it as a trade-off, if you will, since we eliminate the flexibility, but add additional.
I just see it as a discussion to have at a different point.
Mhm.
Vice Chair Tran.
I do appreciate you bringing that up. From the conversation, I think I recall from the personnel committee, we actually brought up the same thing, that the trade-off wasn't quite the same. It wasn't 2 for 2, it was 2 for 3. And I sort of agree that it might warrant another discussion because it is, there's a financial component to it. I think from the personnel committee side, we recommended it because of, I think what you said earlier, the trade-off was basically 2 floating holidays that we couldn't plan for like employees off, and so that flexibility is now gone to sort of 3 fixed holidays. And in my mind, at least part of the discussion was the 2 that we were trading off are the 2 standard ones. The additional third one we were adding was the DEI one, the Juneteenth one, which was requested through the diversity committee. And so at least from a personnel committee standpoint, that seemed like a reasonable trade, to trade the unpredictability of what a employee is going to kick off when, to sort of, this is when everybody's going to be taking off. But I don't necessarily disagree that there could be another discussion on top of just what the personnel committee was sort of just focused on. So we thought, we're sort of focusing on, that's a fair trade from the personnel handbook side, but from a fiscal discussion, I don't think that's unreasonable to discuss as well.
Because another concern is the impact on public service. We've got proposed on the table is New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. We already have Martin Luther King Day. We've got the President's Day, we're adding Lincoln's Day. All of those happen, within weeks of each other? That's a lot of closure to the public in a very condensed period of time. And again, Juneteenth wasn't, I didn't get the sense that we were adding Juneteenth to the other 2, but rather that we were looking at a package somehow. So my reaction to it was we could choose which 2 days to give, and then talk about the third day, and when that might be. So it's not only the fiscal impact, it's the service impact as well. And I'd like some more information about that. And again, I just don't think this is the place to be at type to the package of benefits that we give our employees.
Yeah.
That's just sort of was my reaction to all of this. And I understand the difference in, you've got flexible days and no flexible days. I don't know. I honestly don't know why the attorney would have trouble with floating days. They're used everywhere. Just, I don't get it.
There, in my world, which was university world, we did not have floating holidays. We followed the federal guidelines, and we had a couple extra ones that the feds did not have, which they had to pay for.
Because that was the benefits that had been negotiated,
Yes,
for you,
well, yeah.
or
I
offered
won't
to
get
you.
into, yeah, I won't get into the history of that because it is a little it is kind of interesting. But for this one, Juneteenth is a federal holiday. And it is something that I would like to see added if we need to carve that piece out. We can talk about that further. I think the discussion as far as putting it into the handbook has been had certainly by Vice Chair Tran and Director Glover in all the work that they did last year. And Director Glover and I reviewed these, shorter versions of what was cleaned up, and we agreed to bring those to the full board. So that's why we're here with this, but it was mainly all of the work that was previously done, but we do need to take a look at it, and if you haven't had a chance to actually, because it's a lot of words, to go through. I know this isn't the evening we're going to move on any of the action. We're gonna have this kind of discussion and have one more discussion before we act on it. But it certainly was a well thought out process. Michelle?
I hear and I understand, and I tried really hard for the most part to try to keep it even, because I knew that was a different discussion. This was a little different, based on outside information from the attorney. But I would make a recommendation that if you want to come back with the additional holiday, is that we remove Lincoln's birthday and just do President's Day and keep the others. And so, and I also just wanted to say that while these are holidays that are observed, many of our Category A employees still work these holidays, and they take a different day off to provide service to the public, including things like 4th of July. And so, so just because they are
So it
holidays,
is a bit floating anyway.
it is a little bit floating. They might take it during that week sometime. We don't let them float it months, but but they do, a number of them do work, and unless they're hourly, non-exempt employees, they also don't get overtime for that. So
So working Blues and Brews, for example, is a huge example.
right, yeah, I mean, it's not a holiday, but yes, but they, our non-exempt employees just work till things done, but just because we have holidays, like some people, that may work in the front office, the office might not be open, but childcare will be open, or rentals will be open, and so, we have lots of things that still happen. But that would be my recommendation, if the board would like to keep it consistent, and then we can come back at a later time and discuss any additional benefits.
That may have a budgetary effect.
Just to add on, thank you, Michelle, that sort of jogged my memory as well too, because that was actually one of the other questions, was the just to the budgetary impact, what you were saying, the programmatic impact. And so some of that discussion was sort of there's sort of this more loose agreement of comp time where there isn't really that impact. And so the employees would still get sort of the benefit of the floating, the floating. So it was a little bit of a trade, and the impacts were, it's possible, but we have lots of holidays then which we don't see those impacts, right? And so and it was also nice to have it so that it sort of paralleled, or at least lined up with the city, because when the city does these mass things, we're not open on X type of thing. The library does the same thing as Sport 2. And so to kind of have everything lined up where government functions are not easily accessible, I think this sort of made sense, even from the personnel and committee standpoint. And so I think that's why we were okay with sort of moving forward, but if you feel strongly that we should have a separate discussion, just the budgetary parts of it. I think that's fair as well.
Yeah, I'm never persuaded by the argument that they do it, therefore we should. And
Well, that's not really the argument, that's part of it.
well,
Yeah.
you know, I realize that, but the problem then becomes the creep of it all, you know? And we're a public agency, you know, we're responsible to the public for expenditure of our funds. Our staff is extremely valuable to us, and we want a benefit package that'll be competitive. But that doesn't mean that we stop the conversation there, because we also are a small agency. And offer a different service than other agencies do. And so we have to kind of all filter that as well. Anyway, so it's not to say that it would never line up, but I don't think it has to line up simply because somebody else has made a decision that in their circumstance, it works for them.
Okay, any other comments, questions?
Well, mine are, in regards to the disruption of service to the public, I, kind of hear what you're saying. Although Michelle's point is well taken that, many staff work on those holidays anyway. I felt like the periods of time in which the holidays are, observed don't seem to be the busiest times for the district, other than Juneteenth, which is during the middle of the summer when we have a lot going on. So I did worry a little bit about that, because that tends to be a time in which we need to have services provided more so than, say, in February for Lincoln's birthday. So that was the only consideration I had in terms of the disruption for service, and the timing of the holidays that we would propose.
I would agree with your suggestion that if we do postpone a decision on the third day, then the two would be Juneteenth and the day before New Year's.
Which other sections did you want to go to, Michelle?
So the next was paid sick leave. So I wanted to talk about paid sick leave. So this goes hand in hand with the previous discussion as far as the law for part-time employees for paid sick leave. And so I mentioned we're converting PTO for category B employees to vacation and sick leave. So again, they're gonna receive half a day per pay period. So that works out to 1 day per month for paid sick leave. Again, that sick leave will not be compensable upon leaving, and they'll be subject to the sick leave policy. So they'll be able to use it for vacation or anything like there's a very specific sick leave policy. So there's again, just a basic, tried to keep it as even as possible.
Is that a little question, I think, for clarification, because it was the last statement here, it said, we're front loading the sick leave and, there's no carryover option, and they, earn it at a rate of 4 hours per pay period worked. So
Different classifications of employees. C and D employees, those are our seasonal, we have very few D employees. Those are our seasonal temporary employees. So they get front loaded because they work a very short amount of time. And we need to provide them a certain amount per state law. B employees are the year-round employees that work all year and that work up to an average of 30 hours a week. And they are the ones that will earn sick leave.
okay,
And their sick leave, so they're basically kind of a permanent part-time employee. So they will earn it, which they currently do earn PTO. So it's just converting their PTO to
but
sick
you
time.
said originally it was 1 hour per 10 hours
Correct.
worked, and now it's 4 hours per pay period worked. So if that individual works 1 hour in a pay period, they've
Correct.
got automatically
Yes.
4 hours.
Yes.
So
It is, but they wouldn't be a category B employee if they worked 1 hour. So, for the most part, if they're not working their 30 hours, they're taking, either sick leave or vacation time. It was, trying to contort our system of accrual to the state law. It was not, and this was kind of the most straightforward, without penalizing the employees. So,
And then it is accrued with no cap on.
sick leave, yeah.
Yeah, so
Because
it's not compensable. Okay, so just wanted to.
Yeah, the,
No cap, not compensable.
Paid sick leave is not compensable, so,
But it's capped, isn't it?
not sick leave, no.
So what happens when someone gets to retirement and they have
Months
lots of
of,
it?
Per CalPERS rules, they can convert those into a certain amount of them into credits, so. But it's a small percentage, it's not a lot.
Is that mandated by law that there
Yes.
be no cap on sick leave?
I believe so, but I can double check. But we've never had a cap on sick leave, so,
Okay, but we're converting a lot of hours to sick leave.
Mhm. yeah, but.
So it may become relevant.
Well, yeah, except that B employees are, they're part-time employees that typically aren't going to retire from the district.
Okay, so it doesn't affect it.
This doesn't affect any A employees.
Okay.
The A employees are the same.
Okay, so basically to Derek's point then, we're going from 1 hour for every 10 hours worked to 4 hours for every 10 hours worked.
or per pay period.
No, 4 hours per pay period. So
Well,
basically
pay
4
period
hours
would
per
be-
60 hours.
Let's say they work 30 hours.
Right.
Instead of getting
3 hours.
3 hours, they get 4 hours.
Right. Yes, but
Mhm.
on average, they work 60 hours in a pay period. Pay period is 2
2
weeks.
weeks, yeah.
So they're getting 4 hours instead of 6, so. For sick leave, but they're getting 4 hours of vacation, so they are getting a little bit more. But the amount of time that my accounting staff and payroll staff, it had to do hand. Cause we didn't have this
Mhm.
policy had nothing in our system to be able to do it without doing it by hand. We had to come up with a way that was gonna reduce that amount of time.
Mhm.
And do we have a program that will allow
Yes.
us to do this?
Yes.
But we couldn't if we kept it the way it was?
Correct. And we also, they're not accruing enough for state law for paid sick leave, so
Okay, okay.
that was,
So
that's
there's
the biggest impetus,
There's
was
some
that
regulations.
there's a regulation, they need to accrue a total of 40 hours within 3 months, and so, so this was the way for us to get there, so.
Thank you.
Or 24 hours in 3 months, I'm sorry, and then 40 hours in 6 months, so that, yeah, so this was the way
Glad
for
you
us
have
to
all
get there.
this straight.
It's a little crazy, so.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Any further discussion on that one? No? Michelle, what's next?
So next is the bereavement leave. So in our previous, so bereavement leave, law changed, in 2023. Previously, the bereavement leave, required was 3 days, and it has now gone to 5 days. Previously, bereavement leave was also only awarded to A and B employees in our previous handbook. And we now need to allow it for all employees. Since it is allowed for all employees, you will note that it is an unpaid bereavement leave. They're allowed to take it. They need to use either their vacation or sick leave if they would like to be compensated for that,
For all classes?
for all classes, correct?
Really? No
Yeah.
compensation? for
Not in the current version, no. Because our liability is expanding, and so, and we're going from 3 days to 5 days.
bereavement?
so-
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm told that we need to do it the same for all employees. And my concern is that if I have seasonal employees who are here 3 months, they get this automatic 5 days as well. And if I pay that, then I'm going to have potential of a larger liability, so. Our practice previously, since it was only 3 days, was to pay.
Was to compensate.
Yeah, was to compensate, but it was only for A and B employees, so, and we compensated only for the A employees. So, so that is a change, so I'm noting that, if the board would like us to go back to paid, we can definitely consider that. But at the advice of council, it is unpaid since we now have to extend it to, a lot more employees.
Is it all paid or can we continue to pay for the first 3 days?
We could continue to pay for the first 3 days. You're just gonna need to pay that for C employees as
For
well,
everybody?
for everybody.
That's a benefit. I'm not real comfortable with taking away from everybody. What's your take?
Well, I agree with you and that I wanted to pay them, but I don't wanna pay it the 5 days, so,
Yeah.
so I think that is, that is difficult. We haven't had anybody you know, because it was only available to A and B, to A employees basically for the paid previously, you know, we hadn't had any you know, anyone abuse that, but you know, when we open up to, you know, 100 and some odd,
Yeah.
you know, employees, I'm concerned about that.
Mhm.
And so, you know, I would like to look at the potential fiscal impact of that, because we're already front loading them 40 hours of paid sick leave that they get to use, and then 5 days of bereavement leave on top of that. I mean, we can obviously ask for, you know, ask for documentation, and, you know, that's within our right and it's written into the policy. But it's just difficult, so.
Mhm.
It's a squeamish one for me as well. It's hard. But if you want more conversation on it, we can definitely do that.
I'd love more conversation on it. I think that when you put it in a real world situation, someone loses someone close. And you're a, you know, a valued employee, to say that you have to take time off without compensation is really, really hard.
Mhm.
They can use their own leave for it, but you're just not getting any additional leave for this.
Vacation.
Yeah, they can use vacation or sick. We allow sick time as well. In
Would
our
that be
leave
true
policy.
of the other
Yeah, for the
categories?
B as well, and C as well. They also have 40 hours of sick leave, so we're just not offering an additional benefit for additional bereavement leave paid.
Right.
It's unpaid time from the district, but you are allowed to use your accrued time.
And maybe the question can be asked whether the statement now in the handbook is the bereavement leave is unpaid,
Correct.
but you may use accrued vacation.
Correct.
Maybe it goes, maybe take that out or think about rewording that where it's, you may use accrued vacation or accrued and available sick leave, whatever else is available, but not have that unpaid piece, because to me, that just seeing that right next to each other, it's typically you would use
It's
vacation
hard, yeah.
or sick leave,
Yeah.
or which is the benefit. I don't think there is typically paid. Is there typically, does anybody have experience with paid bereavement leave?
So our old handbook
Vacation?
is silent on it, and our practice prior to me getting here was that we would have a separate bereavement leave. People would put bereavement and we would pay them for that and not take it from their vacation. So that's been our past practice
Okay.
for 3 days, but it only applied to a small group of employees.
I think that probably should be looked at to see if in similar circumstances, if bereavement leave is there, but you use vacation and or sick leave for that. Now, if somebody doesn't have vacation and or sick leave,
Then it's unpaid.
that's unpaid. Did you have a question? Do you have another comment, Derek?
No, just clarification. It was like, it says the discretion of the GM has been removed. I wasn't quite sure what that was in relation to from bereavement. Was it?
Well, basically, it was 3 days, and then there was, so you got automatically 3 days, and then the GM could allow you additional time. And so that was, that's what I mean.
Taken out
Yeah,
from
it
that.
was basically, now it's 5 days
Judgment.
bereavement. Obviously, if you wanna use more vacation or sick leave, you're gone for 2 weeks, then you're gone for 2 weeks, and that is just how that works, you know. We're all human beings, we would allow people to use their
Sure.
vacation if they needed to be off 2 weeks for a death of a family member,
Mhm.
so. You know, that is not, it's just the additional paid benefit,
Mhm.
which I'm being very honest. A employees have been receiving, we haven't had a lot of
Yeah.
it, but yeah.
Okay, that's a new one to me.
I'm comforted by the fact that there are other alternatives, that it's not just, you can't use any kind of, you're basically penalized for having lost somebody. So I'm comforted by the fact you can use sick leave or vacation leave for it.
And maybe instead of saying unpaid, it's not an additional benefit. Maybe we can.
Yeah,
I can
I just think
reword
that,
so.
or it's included
Yeah. Yeah, or, you know, you may
It
use,
just-
yeah,
The wording.
The wording, I think,
you're
is-
right, so-
the wording's directly from an attorney, so.
right, I, that's why I'm, you know, and I
I want to be
appreciate,
straightforward and not.
I appreciate that
Yeah.
they've certainly got
Yeah.
more experience in this than I do, but for that particular one, I think that's that one needs to be just double checked.
I don't know if anybody responds to that, because I'm not familiar. If there's very many sort of paid bereavement leave
Yeah.
anyways.
I've never heard
With
of that.
the many government agencies, I haven't seen that, and I'm not sure if that's common in private. The private world as well, I don't think that is.
I'd have to look at my handbook to see.
Yeah, but I don't recall, I think this is, you know, on this. The whole sort of the personnel, I think, there was a lot of sort of rounding or making easier or making better or taking away from it, so we tended to skew a little bit more to we're not gonna penalize. Employees for the most part, so the entire handbook has sort of rounding sort of, you know, toward, like you should talk about sort of 4 hours for, whatever it is, right? This is the only one that was sort of going the other direction, and it didn't affect a lot of people anyways, because not a lot of people were taking it, and didn't seem like it was a very common, you know, benefit that was being offered anyways, and so I think from the discussion, you say, well, we're allowing people to do what they want with their leave, and then they can declare it as bereavement leave. And if they don't have any leave, they at least can take time off without penalty, meaning that, you know, they're not absent without leave or whatever it may be, right? They can at least take that if they wanted to. But I think that's where we sort of fell.
I think we could use a little more clarity.
Yeah, the wording,
Wordsmith.
yeah.
I got-
Let's promise that they make sense.
Yeah.
The wordsmithing.
The next one I wanted to talk about, I just wanted to skip I wanted to skip to 1201, the insurance benefits, because this is a change, and it's a change that's required by state law. So the ACA employees are part-time employees for purposes of insurance benefits that work 30 hours or more a week, so 30 hours times 52 weeks, which is 1560. Those who average that are entitled by law, by federal law, to receive the same benefit, insurance benefits, as full-time employees. So right now, we have 6 employees that would fall into that category. So we would need to offer them, they don't need to take it, but we would need to offer them the same benefit as A employees. So that means that they would be eligible. So the district pays 95% of up to the family rate in Kaiser for employees. So the employee pays 5% of that. So we would need to offer the same benefit. Just to remind you or to let you know, previously, B employees who were working at this level, they got 60% paid by the district. So the nexus is 35%. So it's a large chunk. We have to take a look back approach, basically. So basically we look back at the year previously and figure out, we can determine our period that we're gonna look back and then offer those employees that met that on an annual basis, insurance benefits. If they then the following year don't meet those, then they would no longer be eligible for that.
But it's determined on an annual basis.
Determined on an annual basis. And so we have a choice. I'm just gonna let you know, we have a choice. It can be an annual basis or it can be a monthly basis. But adding and subtracting people on a monthly basis is way too difficult.
Nuts, yeah.
And so we've chosen the annual basis.
Does it coincide with the open enrollment period?
No, it doesn't coincide with the open enrollment period. We're looking at the fiscal year, as soon as this is, because we need to pick us the same time every year. So we're looking at the fiscal year. A look back is what I included. But we can we can add people who are eligible at any time, so. So we're, you know, if we have determined, that's one of the changes of the ACA law, is you can add people who have now become eligible at any point in time. So as I mentioned, right now that's 6 people, as part of the budget process. This is going to come into play, for both, how many employees we may have at this level, whether or not, I have employees who are working over 30 hours a week. And the only thing I'm saving right now is a portion of benefits. I may, you know, make a recommendation to, you know, increase them to full-time, if it's in the benefit of the district, but, we don't have an option on this. And one thing I do need to caution everyone is I can't now all of a sudden decide that those employees are now not working 30 hours a week. That would be punitive and against, the intention of the law, I am told. So that is where we're at. It's a big hit. It could be a big hit. I don't know which employees would opt into that. Of those employees right now, I believe we have 1 or 2 who are accepting district benefits at this point in time. Whether they would then accept them if offered at the 95% level is something entirely different. But that's the funnest part of this conversation. So that is where we are at. I think the intention of the law is to make sure that employers aren't artificially trying to keep their employees working under full-time so that they then save insurance benefits. So at this point in time, I'm not recommending changing any of the benefit levels for employees, but should this be a huge impact, we may need to have a conversation on the level in which the district is providing medical benefits. So because it increases that pool. It's part of the overall benefit package conversation that we may have as part of the budget discussion.
Director Bernard. Wow, that's a lot. So we have class A or category A, class or A category, category A and category B employees. Category A being full-time employees, 40-hour or 38-hour, 40 hours, employees. And class B have always been 30 hours or less, right?
Correct.
Or under 30 hours?
Under 30 or around, yeah. Under 1560 in a year. So yes, under 30 hours.
Under 30 hours. And the reason we have that category of employee is because there's a whole different strata of benefit and a whole different strata of need. And it was always my understanding, until you just said that we can't manufacture fewer hours, which strikes me as being really weird, that we can't determine how many hours we need somebody to work. That it was the role of the supervisor to make sure that the category B employees didn't work more than 30 hours. That the scheduling of them was such that it wasn't intended to be punitive. It was intended to manage the number of hours that we were asking people to work, for which we were compensating people at certain levels.
And that
Is
is
that not the
true.
case?
And no, that's the case. They're scheduling them at 30 hours, but what I'm telling you is that now scheduling them at 30 hours bumps them into a benefit category that we weren't aware of. And so what I'm saying is I've been told I can't now start scheduling them at 29 hours so that they are not eligible for that. So if they have been, so if we have a front desk employee, you know, because I have front desk employees at the community center that work 30 hours a week. They've worked 30 hours a week. They've continued to work there at 30 hours a week. Because I am now aware of this law, I can't now go, okay, you're gonna work 28 hours a week so that you cannot get this benefit.
True.
So, yes,
Yes, those that have not
Correct.
annually
right.
been scheduled that way,
We can continue to keep them at that level.
keep them at
Yeah,
that
and
level.
based on the.
And we can work to keep them at
Correct.
that level,
Mhm.
right?
And so part of this, when we hire new employees, is we're going to be very clear on the number of hours that they will be working
Managing.
and
those things.
managing that. And so you know, so we have at least one employee that works in multiple departments, right? So you know, so works for 2 different supervisors, but, you know, works 10 hours here and 20 hours here. Well, together, that one employee is working 30 hours, but that, you know, but it's not, you know, it's not for one position, right? So, so we will be managing that intentionally, and looking at, making sure that, that anybody who is at that 30-hour a week position is required for the district.
And at the same time, we're looking at these positions that are 30 hours to see if they could be consolidated perhaps into a full-time
Full-time,
position, into a category A employee, and having fewer positions.
Correct. Yes. All of those are true.
Okay. Yeah, this is all about managing people's
Yeah.
expectations and
Right.
hours, I think.
Yes. Yeah, and you know, and it's always been, you know, and you know, I mean, our managers have been very good at, you know, at scheduling people as they need them. And what the position and what the district needs, not what the employee would like to work,
Right.
you know, so I have confidence.
For overtime or
Yeah,
any of these.
Right,
things.
so I have confidence that they will manage it well. We're gonna have a few more safeguards in there that I will be approving as we move forward with this, because it definitely is a change that could negatively affect the district in a lot of ways. But I think we have it managed.
Negatively affect employment too.
Yeah.
Our ability to employ people. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, I don't know that we have very much of an option, you know, to change, to do anything about it, but adopt the policy as it's, you know. But
Well,
just consider its future implications
we,
rather.
we have to make sure we understand it, and we have to make sure which, our general manager has laid all this out here for us, and that's why we're having this discussion now, and then have the discussion later.
Yeah.
Any other comments on the 1201 medical insurance for now? Okay,
Is that coming back to, does this policy say 95%?
It does, yeah.
So if we were to
yes, 1201.
move it around,
We'll do that outside of this.
do we have to have the 95% in here? Subject to
Yeah.
policy and forfeits, approval and two readings and all this stuff? Or can we have that outside of?
I think we might be able to have that outside of that and just
Okay.
state what that is. I'll
Okay.
confirm with, I know Deanna asked us to be specific, but I'll confirm with her if we can just refer to the benefit policy
Okay,
as well.
because there's a
So,
lot of process that
Yeah.
gets involved
Yeah,
if we have to adjust that.
That's true.
more vague. Yeah, I can ask that question.
Okay. Is there any other ones you
No,
want
I
to
really
specifically
appreciate the
discuss?
discussion.
Um,
A lot of edges to it.
Yeah, the only, I just wanted to highlight a couple, so, the drug and alcohol testing policy, it's pretty much the same, except we've removed cannabis testing as required by state law. And so that, has been removed, and then, everything else is kind of, pretty basic, straightforward. So there's no changes, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different policies at the end that were added by our employment council that weren't in the original version that we used from LCW. And so those are all included, including the last section, which is, you know, current law trumps it, even if, you know, if we're behind in, if we're behind in updating our policy, whatever current law is trumps whatever this says. That's pretty much the catch-all.
All those lawyers.
That's pretty much the catch-all, so. But with that, I'll take any questions, any other questions or anything else you wanted to discuss in the policy handbook? This is all really good feedback and some changes.
One question.
Go ahead.
In my experience, it's unusual for a law firm to be willing to evaluate the template that was prepared by a different law firm. Did you get any kind of,
Nope,
you
she
know,
went
stomach
to,
churning because of that?
no, I mean, she made some recommendations on some wording,
Okay.
you know, and kind of made it her own. After she
right.
went through that,
See, if it
so.
were me,
yeah.
I would have substituted the template
Yeah.
for my own
Yeah, no,
template.
she took what we had because we had worked on that and then edited it from there, so,
Okay.
so yeah, she spent a lot of time going through, And so, so she kind of made it her own as she went through.
Well, I haven't read this from soup to nuts. I really relied on your summary. But are you confident that the drafting is consistent top to bottom where these edits have been made, that we don't somehow make it look like a knot hole in the tree trunk?
I am confident that I've gone over it enough times
Okay.
and, like I've gone through and, removed all the, when we no longer do PTO or removed all of the instances where it says PTO and, so we've. So
Sentence structure is
sentence
all-
structure, yeah. And she, Deanna did a lot of editing on this and sentence structure. So, so while it started as an LCW, it's not really LCW anymore.
Anymore, yeah.
Just kind of as a.
Yeah, it's generally a no-no in
Okay.
that law business. I just want to thank our committee members for the work that went into this. There's a lot of judgment going into it, a lot of information that you probably never wanted to hear. And recommendations to make, weighing all the pros and cons, so nicely done. Hats off to you for that work. It's a real contribution to the district and to our employees. And you too, Michelle, of course.
This is something that, 2.5 years ago, I think I was curious about the personnel handbook and I asked a question and because I didn't see any personnel meetings, we didn't have any at the time. And then, it started going 1.5 years ago plus. And Vice Chair Tran and Director Glover did an awesome job getting it ready to go. And now that I'm on the personnel committee, it was pretty, easy. But we, and Director
That's what
Glover,
it takes.
Director Glover is the chair, but we had a good discussion when we went over it a few weeks ago. But as far as our purpose tonight, we've gone through it, we've had a good discussion.
I have
you some
feedback.
things that you're gonna take a look at. And so it's whether or not it'll come back at a future meeting, so that we can get it tied up and in a neat bow, ready to go. So if our directors want to look at the whole thing that's there, the draft, the current final, and provide any other comments before we get to this other meeting, is that appropriate?
Well, they can ask questions of
Ask
me
questions,
and then, and so if you have any questions and then I can include that in the future report as well.
Right.
If there's any discussion items that you realize that you wanted to have with the full board.
Any other comments on this particular?
We will be bringing it back quickly because our goal is to get it done before we onboard a whole bunch of summer employees. So.
Correct, and we'll wanna, I know the budget committee will be coming up.
Yeah, and we need to get it adopted before the budget committee starts meeting, start dealing with budget.
So if we have no further comments on this from the directors, I'll open it up for public comment. Do we have any public comment on this in the room?
No speaker
or
cards?
Otherwise,
And no emails.
okay. Close public comment and go on to item 7, verbal report from committee chairs.
Mine are TBD.
Well, personnel committee just had.
Yeah, they're all
We have nothing
TBD right now, so,
scheduled.
yeah, we have nothing scheduled right now, but we will be working on that, so
Okay.
right now, it's good.
Any hope to have a district, city
Thank you.
liaison committee?
Yes, my desire is, and I was gonna ask Michelle about this, is that we try and have it, certainly by noon,
Okay, I'll speak with the city manager.
yeah. And not push it out, because I'd like to have 2.
Yeah.
This calendar year, and I think it's important,
And our vice chair will attend as
Yes.
well. Good, that's great experience.
yes.
Yep.
Vice Chair Tran will be there,
Try to have one in May, got it.
yeah.
Good.
Right, let's see. We're on to item 8, board announcements and requests to staff, and we will start with Director Bernardo.
Oh, golly, forgot to make a list. Baseball season's in full swing. The parade was awesome.
Mhm.
The weather held off just long enough. Were you there, by the way?
I was not,
You
no.
were there, because you probably heard that it was at the take me out to the ball game at the very end, the skies opened and
Yeah.
people ran, but it was just a mass of children. It was the first time ever I went to the blacktop at Sequoia
Okay.
to try and find my grandson.
Uh-huh.
And good luck with that.
Yeah.
It was just
The sea of
sea of
kids in
children.
caps, you know, like they're all about here.
all of them running around doing crazy stuff. It was amazing. So anyway, I loved every second of it. And anyway, thanks again to PHBA for the invite and the TLC on the trolley. Like I said, baseball season's in full swing. I know, kids are playing and hopefully the fields are holding up a little bit. It's been interesting, this weather, I'm sure. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Director Worst?
As far as second, having been able to participate in the PHB parade, it was amazing. I really had no idea that it was that many kids, 1,900 kids. And it just went on and on and on. So I was really pleased that the weather did hold as best as it did for just the parade, but I know that the games were canceled later that day. But it was a really impressive sight to see, looking out from the trolley and all the kids coming behind us. And then also, I know that we've been invited to the PHBA poker tournament, I believe, as well. That's
Is it
coming up.
Texas Hold'em?
I think so,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
Mhm. And I'd gone last year, I believe it was at Back 40. I think it might be the same
Same.
venue. Yeah, that's coming up, I think, on Friday.
It's
next-
No,
week of
or-
20 it's
Next Friday.
Next Friday.
Next Friday. Yeah, so there's that happening, a lot happening. It seems like next week, the Chilpancingo, park meeting, which I'm excited about to see some conceptual designs. I'll do my best to hold my input. But I'm curious to see what people have to say and what, the consultants come up with. And the other thing is, I guess I consider myself a little bit lucky, at the expo in my experience, I happen to maybe be one of the last registrants that everything worked out smoothly, but the person who I was talking with behind me didn't have quite the same experience, so it was a bit frustrating to have heard that, the system went haywire shortly after I had registered, but at least up until the time I went through, it was operating smoothly, so, yeah.
It was hit or miss.
Okay, I maybe didn't see what was happening behind
Oh,
the
but
scenes.
It was not
I'm
smooth
like,
up until the
some
time you
people, it was
registered.
no.
Okay,
Some people got in, some people, it was hit.
We're in this little,
Chaos.
we're in a cone of luck.
Yes, yeah, there was really no rhyme or reason,
for
to be
how,
honest with you.
okay, I thought it was kind of shut down shortly after.
We did shut it down shortly
It was
after.
all your fault.
Okay.
But
I didn't
yeah,
break it.
to try to clear out the errors, but yes.
But yeah, and then also, a couple other things I wanted to say. I just, was at the Gregory Gardens Elementary School's PTA fundraiser for the Grown-ups Night Out. I appreciated Kid Stop being able to provide childcare for the parents during that time. It really made it nice so that more people could attend. And we were at the community center, which was really nice, to see it in that type of a way, for a party venue. I told people, don't worry about spilling on the carpet because we're gonna get that.
Thanks.
No, but in all seriousness, it was a really fun venue and a good to see that we were able to offer that for Gregory Gardens. And then appreciations to Tom too. And I guess a resident had reported to me that there was somebody in the park using a metal detector to go looking for treasure and was bringing a shovel and starting to, put holes in the turf. And so quickly reported that to Tom and, he was gonna try and look into that, make sure that if those folks are seen doing it, to reprimand them. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Vice Chair Tran.
Yeah, the same thing about the PHBA parade. It was just great seeing all the kids, a lot of fun. I wish it was drier, but it is still fun nonetheless. Wish I could come to all the stuff that's happening next week, just a confluence of different things and my other hats. will allow me to do that efficiently. But I look forward to the reports for Chilpancingo and others as well too. I did, even though the system crashed in sort of the summer camps, I was able to get a couple. And so then, well, got a couple and didn't get out the rest, and that's probably okay in terms of just the fairness, so that other people can get other things as well too. But I do, and I sort of echo what you said earlier, do want to sort of relook at it, because I think I keep bringing it up, saying, should we really talk about our vendor here? This happens too many times, you know, and that's the public facing side of us, right? Not only us as people, but people's interaction with our technology as well is very important in this day and age. And when technology doesn't work, especially at key points of time, that just really reflects only on a district. So I think we really need to seriously consider whether this vendor is the appropriate vendor for us. Just a couple last things. Happy Women's History Month this month, celebrating that, especially since we have a lot of women leaders in this district. Commend that, and I'll always look forward to your wise thoughts. So look forward to celebrating the rest of this month as well.
Thank you. Okay, I don't have anything new to add. You know, I agree, parade was great. Looking forward to the Chilpancingo update, and so that we can listen, I'll stress listen, and we'll hopefully have, I think, well, we had a good turnout last time. So hopefully those people have received emails or been communicated with, and other people will join them. So looking forward to that. So if we don't have anything else, I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 8:25, and we will meet again.
March 28th.
March 28th. Okay, thank you. Meeting